I'm going to be doing a writer's analysis of the book, The Hating Game, so I can teach myself craft. And I had seen a webinar by Sacha, and I got her book and I kind of used it as a reference. And before I go into the analysis, I just want to say one of the great things that she does in the beginning of the book is, what is a bestseller and what is a bestseller to you? So I decided to go with there are three options you have. One is if it's on like a New York Times bestseller list, or you can go by sales, looking at Amazon sales. And the third one is your own definition. So I basically decided to look at books that were turned into movies in the romance genre. And so, like her book says, it teaches you craft when you can deconstruct someone else's book. I highly recommend it. And she also has a podcast. So if you don't want to read the book, she has a podcast with some useful information. So we're talking about The Hating Game. So the way I deconstructed it, and I actually like to get into a book, and it can be frustrating to deconstruct something as you're reading and you want to enjoy the book. So one of the best ways I have found, and I will have more coming up on this, is to actually watch the screen version. So if they've changed it into a movie or a television series, is to watch that and go back and read the book, and then you can deconstruct it. Movie basically follows the book, and I'm going to talk about the comparison of the two and why I even think that it was turned into a movie. Okay, so this book did some really kind of unique things in the romance genre with the tropes that we all know. So it's an enemies to lovers trope. There are two colleagues that can't stand each other. And so this is similar to like friends to lovers, where the two people already know each other. They're already colleagues, they're already at office. And in the romance genre, we are told that the inciting incident is usually when the couple meets. It's their meet cute is the same as the inciting incident. But in books where the characters already know each other, it's when they meet on page. Here, they're sitting in the office right away. And that kind of interaction is a bit delayed. So to start right away with them talking would probably have been a disservice to the reader in the sense that it kind of gives us this anticipation. She builds the anticipation very well. Instead of having them meet or go immediately into their interaction while they're at the office, what she does is something a little bit different, something we're not often told. She goes into description, she goes into characterization, she goes into backstory, all up until the point that the two characters actually speak to each other. And this goes on for about a few pages until they actually, I think it's like page 5 or 6 or something, before they actually have an interaction. And it's very, very tame. It's like a few words, and then they start to get into the interaction a little bit more as it gets closer to the inciting incident. Okay, so in the beginning, like I said, it's written in the first person. So there is really good characterization, not because it's in the first person, but there is a good sense of who the main character is, even by the first line. And that is something I've been noticing in a lot of books. The characterization happens. And in this case, we are inside the main character, Lucy Hutton's head. And the first line is even looked at in Sacha Black's book. And so it kind of brought me to this book, actually, is I have a theory. Hating someone feels disturbingly similar to being in love with them. So she has this theory, and then as she explains it, we get to know more about Lucy. And that right away is done. We get a grasp of who she is as she reveals her theory to us. And the other thing is the setting is set. She describes the office. She does so much of the contrast because that also is important. Postulating her theory to us, love and hate. So you can see the contrast in the way she's speaking, in some of the setting in her prose. She's constantly looking at two opposing things, and it runs throughout the book, and she does this really well. The author does this really well. Okay, so then in the beginning you get her name because it's written in first person, so you get to know her name, her age and kind of grounds a reader. So you have the setting that grounds a reader, you know who the person is, and then you get the characterization through learning about how she views this theory, and then also how she characterizes Josh. So in the beginning, we hear her thoughts that help us know the character about Josh. Yes, it's her opinion, and we're seeing it through her lens, but we get a sense of who Josh is by her telling us about the different shirts that he wears every single day. Each day has a certain colored shirt. And even before they speak, there's nonverbal communication. So even when we think that the characters often in romance are going to be talking to each other, sometimes they can speak to each other in nonverbal ways before the actual words are spoken between them. And all of this done is really well is to build up into the point until there is a more intense interaction between them. And that happens by the introduction of a love triangle in the beginning of the book. It happens at 7% before the inciting incident, and it does serve a purpose throughout the book. The love triangle isn't there because it's kind of one of the conventions that are put into romance. They say have a love triangle, either it's another person or have something competing for that romance, like somebody's a workaholic, so their job is competing for them being in this relationship. Common technique to use in romance, but there is also this purpose that the love triangle, it isn't okay, I'm going to put the love triangle in and I'm going to have the convention. What it actually does is it help characterize Josh. Because we are in Lucy's head, we don't know what Josh is thinking or feeling. And so through this love triangle, by Lucy having another boyfriend, another love interest, we can then get a sense of how Josh feels about Lucy. So the love triangle needs to serve a purpose rather than a convention. That's actually what I learned in this book. Okay, so we got to 10% and it's the inciting incident. So we've got the setup. They hate each other, they're at work, they see each other every day. The nature of their relationship changes when a promotion becomes available that they're both qualified for, and they're going to go up against it. And because they hate each other, there's no way they can see each other working for the other person. So this promotion means one of them would be the other person's boss. So it raises the stakes. It changes the nature of their already existing hate relationship. So that is actually the inciting incident. And before in my mind, I had thought, well, it's always when the characters meet. And so I learned that actually isn't true. It's what's going to change this for the two people that we're talking about. So the other key elements of this book, and it's a very simple story. So it's easier to see some of the techniques without some different kind of subplots that are coming in, is one is you can see around 18 to 20% is where Lucy begins to say, hey, wait a minute, I have an attraction to him. It isn't love, but it's some sort of physical response that she's having to him. And then the other thing that slowly happens throughout the book is since they're already together, we talk about adhesion a lot in romance. What she does is, okay, they're already in the office, but then she increases that adhesion in different ways. She has them in the elevator together, whereas they have their first kiss. They're in the car together. From elevator to car, that ups the intimacy because now they are really alone in the car. Then they're on the same team, which is an adhesion of a different sort because before they're on opposing teams, and now for a team building activity, they're be on the same team to win. The adhesion also comes in intimacy. They see each other's apartments. So there's this kind of gradual build in intimacy, which I thought was done so well, and it's a little easier to see here how that's done because the characters are already adhesed, I don't know if that's a word, forced together because they work together in the same office, in the same room, facing each other every single day, 5 days a week. And the other conflict that comes up with the growing attraction is her shift in the perspective, which happens around 30%, I believe, in the book, where she's like, okay, now there's an attraction. There's some sort of sexual attraction to him. And then also she starts to notice that maybe he's a nice person. He's not as mean as what she had described in her head earlier in the book, is that Josh is a terrible person. He just does this and this and this. And then we actually see him doing something nice at 30%. So now it becomes attraction, which is already conflicting, plus, oh, wait a minute, Josh may be a different person. So the conflict in that is increasing. So one of the things that I've heard is that at 50%, there's a shift. There's a shift in the protagonist to go from reactive to proactive. And there's different ways to look at the midpoint shift. There's different, it's sometimes also referred to as kind of there's point of no return or other things like that. However you view it. I kind of like the reactive proactive shift because I can see it clearly in other things that I look at. Is before the 50% midpoint, she becomes aware of the attraction. And through her, through her and the love triangle, we also become aware of Josh's attraction. And what Lucy is doing at this point, up until 50%, is she's reacting to it. In fact, she's running away because she has all these conflicted feelings. So she's running away, and there's kind of this reaction she's having to the attraction. And then at 50%, she decides, okay, I just want to get this over with. I just want us to sleep together, and then all the tension will be gone. I will get rid of the conflict. So she pursues him in this way. So at 50%, she actively pursues him. And then the conflict becomes that Josh says no all the time to her advances. So all of this is actually building up to them actually sleeping together. So throughout the book, there is this growing attraction, and the tension is, are they ultimately going to be sleeping together? So that is kind of the build that happens because she's proactively pursuing him in this way. When is it going to happen? When is it going to happen? So as the author ups the adhesion to ultimately they go to a wedding, and then that happens, and it doesn't happen till 85%. So that's what I said. It builds all of these intimate moments until they actually sleep together. They build other types of intimate moments, sharing their vulnerability, sharing their apartments. And then it's actually at 85%, which is right before the climax. And here is where we usually have the couple break up. And the other thing that this book does that is not in conventional romance is the couple doesn't break up. Actually. So you think that, okay, they've slept together and now something's going to tear them apart. Maybe the promotion, maybe it doesn't. And here you just have a realization that it's actually love and not hate, which then answers the story or confirms her theory, which was the theory that was postulated to us in the first sentence, is that they're actually alike. And then it ends up to be true as she admits to herself that she does actually love Josh, not hate him. So there's no third act breakup, and this is actually something that I've learned that a lot of readers prefer books where there's no third act breakup. They don't like it, so they want books like this. So she has found the readers that don't like it. And so then you get the resolution. They are together happily ever after. Now, the one resolution that does not happen is the promotion. So there is a point where Josh decides to back out, and he tells her this at the end of the book. Look, I'm not going after the position, but she still needs to interview against external candidates. So we don't actually find the resolution of whether or not Lucy gets the promotion, which is one of the story questions that was put up. And it's one of the things that I actually would have liked answered, and why I think actually it became a movie. I mean, people enjoyed the book, and it was a success as a book. And then where I thought the movie did is they found a way to change it a little bit to make it something fresh and new by resolving that in the end of the movie, where Lucy in fact does get the job. Two that is not there is, where does this story take place? They are working in publishing, and it's in the English language. So there's only a few cities it could really be in, but no city is stated. One of the things is it never describes the name of the city. It doesn't give you street names or places of hotels or coffee shops or anything like that. And then all of a sudden you get a place that they're going to for the wedding, a name. I can't remember what it's called. It's like Harbor something, or anyway. And then all of a sudden we have a place, but this place doesn't exist. I looked it up, and so it was a little jarring to be like, okay, I have to imagine some city, it's maybe London or Sydney or something like that. And then all of a sudden we get a proper place that doesn't exist. And I felt that jarred. Now, I kind of did some research on what readers wrote about that. And a lot of readers seem to not be put off by description or knowing exactly where something is taking place. And for me, that is really important as a reader, is to know that. So that was one of the things where I felt like, well, it would just be nice because they are traveling to different places. They're in the car, they're going to certain places. And it would be great to know that this place exists, even if it was not a real place, that there was just some sort of concrete place to feel grounded. That's my breakdown and my analysis of The Hating Game. I'm going to be breaking down more books that turn into movies to learn craft, and I hope you'll join me on the journey. And also here is the other book in case you wanted to pick it up. I'll see you soon.